We have this positive development to bring you. Israel and Hamas are expected to complete a fifth swap of Israeli hostages for Palestinian prisoners later today. Hamas released an additional 11 hostages Monday evening. As of last night, 69 Israeli hostages, consisting of women and children, have been freed from Gaza since the beginning of what is described as a pause. Israel has freed at least 150 Palestinian prisoners in that same window of time. Now, the initial ceasefire was extended for 2 additional days. That was on Monday, and talks are underway right now in Qatar to extend the truce even further. This pause also provides additional time to increase the flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza. Lilia Luciano joins us now from Tel Aviv, where she's been reporting extensively. Lilia, what more are we learning about this latest ceasefire extension, the result of so much diplomacy?
Well, Errol, good to hear you. Of course, it has increased the hopes of so many families here and families that have been receiving those women and children released from Israeli jails. The families that we've been hearing from here are starting to hear the accounts of the 50 women and children, in addition, approximately 19 foreigners who've been released from Hamas captivity among that group of hostages. I'll tell you at this hour, local news is reporting that the next group of hostages, the first group of 10 hostages released beyond the original deal of 50, the next 10, bringing the number to 60, might already be in the custody of the Red Cross. Of course, as you've been watching over the last 4 or 5 days, or 4 days, they would then be taken across the Rafah crossing and then handed over to Israel to come into Israel here and then go to hospitals. That group is 10, but one thing that I keep hearing from families here is there's a great deal of concern because there were originally around 40 children that were listed, 38, 39 to 40, that were listed as being part of the hostages. And so far, only 28 or so have been released. So there's an approximate number of 9 to 10 children that have not been released yet. That includes the Bibas family, the Bibas boys, a 4-year-old Ariel and 10-month-old Kafir, who is the youngest of all of the hostages. So we've talked to family members of these 2 boys and their mother, who are all hostages, and they're very concerned. They know, and many of the reports from the communications with the Qataris and Hamas, or Hamas to Qatar, has been that not all of the hostages were together, of course, but they were in different groups, that there were different factions, different organizations that could be holding them, and even civilians. So right now there is, of course, hope, excitement that there's 10 more hostages coming. In exchange, the deal so far remains as it was over the last several days. 10 Israeli hostages returned to Israel means 30 Palestinians returned or released from Israeli prisons. But we're going to see who is released today. Then tomorrow there's another day, and of course there is a humongous diplomatic effort involving the United States, the U.S. State Secretary Antony Blinken. It includes Qatar. The effort is to extend this truce, but even throughout the day today, there have been accusations from both sides of fire, of explosions, of things that could put in peril the truce that today is on its 5th day.
And Lilia, what are we hearing from the hostages about conditions they were kept under in Gaza? And are we hearing or seeing on the other side what the Palestinian prisoners who have been detained have been experiencing?
We've been hearing very little directly from the hostages because, of course, they are being treated in hospitals. But some family members have come out to describe a number of conditions. Among those, some have said that, and including doctors who've treated the hostages, have come out to say that they were malnourished, that they had a poor diet, that the parents have said, look, our my child lost a great deal of weight. They look pale. But overall, I mean, the hostages have been released mostly in stable condition. There's one elderly hostage who was in critical condition. Her family very upset, saying had they held her for another few hours, she would not have made it. And so the accounts vary, but of course we're going to continue learning more and more as the days go by, and we will continue reporting on those and of course on the conditions from the Palestinian women and children being released out of Israeli jails.
Yeah, it's a lot to keep track of. Lilia Luciano, thanks for that update. We appreciate it. CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes joins us now from our D.C. bureau to speak more about this. Nancy, CIA Director William Burns is in Doha in Qatar for meetings on this ongoing war. Of course, the administration wants the release of people detained and hostages to continue, but what is the administration's top priority for his trip specifically?
Well, officially, Errol, all they will say is that he's there to participate in negotiations over the war and over hostages. But what we know is that the goal here is to speed up the number of hostages released and make sure that more hostages come home, particularly the American hostages. Keep in mind that over the past 4 days, only one American has been released. That's 4-year-old Abigail Moore-Edan. But we know that there are still up to 8 or 9 Americans in captivity. And White House officials had been hoping that a couple of American women would be among the first groups of hostages released. And so far, that hasn't happened. They're still hopeful, they say, that that could happen today or tomorrow, but there are more Americans. And of course, there is a big concern about the men who are being held. What is that negotiation going to look like to get men released and also to get members of the Israeli Defense Forces released as well? So those are the types of conversations that are taking place. And the reason that the CIA director is involved is because Bill Burns is a longtime U.S. diplomat. Well before he became CIA director, he had traveled the world negotiating on behalf of the U.S. He's the former U.S. ambassador to Moscow. He has very deep relationships in Israel in particular, and that's why he has sort of been a go-to for President Biden when it comes to negotiating some really delicate aspects of this very complicated regional conflict.
You know, Nancy, for someone watching this here from the U.S., they might be confused by seeing Secretary Blinken weeks ago, when this all kicked off, shuttling in the region, speaking with all the key players. We finally get these hostages released, and it started with Thai hostages. And I think of this latest batch, no Americans were released, as you've just kind of walked us through. What should we read into that, if anything? What message does that send?
You know, I'm not sure what we should read into it. The reality is that the priority here has been very young children and then their mothers and older women. And keep in mind that even before this hostage negotiation began, the U.S. had already managed to extract a couple of Americans very early on, a mother and her daughter from the Midwest. They came out very early, and the U.S. saw that as sort of a template for how a larger hostage release could take place. And so the U.S. has been very involved in this from the beginning. And yet U.S. officials on a daily basis, when we talk to them and we ask them, do you think today might be the day where Americans come out? Often they themselves don't know until they get that list from Hamas every single day.
It's an interesting glimpse into how this is moving forward moment by moment, hour by hour. Nancy Cordes, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Errol.
And on that point, Secretary of State Antony Blinken will return to the Middle East later this week. This marks his 3rd visit to the region since the war began last month. Secretary Blinken will travel to Israel and the West Bank after attending meetings with foreign ministers from NATO in Belgium today. While speaking beside NATO's Secretary General, Blinken said the alliance is reaffirming its support for Ukraine and also discussing the war in the Middle East.
Like you, Jens, I'm very pleased to see hostages returning home, coming back to be with their loved ones. And we're determined to continue that for as long as possible, to bring as many people home as we possibly can.
Secretary Blinken will travel to North Macedonia tomorrow to meet with counterparts from the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. After heading back to the Middle East, he will attend the UN climate conference in Dubai.